Welcome to Batara Immigration Live. Your host is immigration attorney Carlos Batara. Immigration Live has been designed to provide you and your family with insights, tips, and advice for your journey to immigration success, permanent residency, and citizenship. Every week, Immigration Live will bring you special guests, all with unique insights about immigration issues. There's no fluff here, just good old-fashioned get-togethers and chats, live to your desktop computer or mobile phone. And now for your host, Carlos Batara.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 3 of Immigration Live. Oh, my God, number 3. Can you believe that? We're already on number 3. Here we are again with our down-to-earth talk show about everything and anything immigration. With real immigrants, real immigrant activists, real immigration activists, real immigration community leaders. And today we have none other than Bob Drews. And who on Facebook, tell me this, doesn't know or hasn't heard of Bob Drews? He is the most prolific commentator on immigration affairs on Facebook. I was looking at his membership this morning. 3,113 members to his group. Take this down. Unjust legal immigration laws and the rights of all people. That's certainly a group you should be a part of. 3,000 members, God, that puts my site to shame. But Bob is with us today. He's going to talk to us. He's going to give us a little bit about his personal background. He has a very unique situation, and we're just going to get started. So let's go for it. Bob, say hello to everyone.
Hello.
Okay, Bob. Hey, let's talk about Bob. Where were you born?
Three Rivers, Michigan.
Where were you born?
Three Rivers, Michigan.
And where do you live now?
Navarro, Laredo.
Okay, that's a long road. And your ancestry, your cultural roots, what countries were your grandparents from, your parents from? And if you know further back, then go a little further back.
Oh, yeah, I did my genealogy back to the 1700s. My mother was American Indian, English, and my father's side was German.
And what kind of work have you done in your life?
I've driven truck for like 35 years.
And what brought you to immigration?
Laredo, Texas is a port, and I'd bring freight to Laredo, Texas, and a Mexican would come in and pick the freight up, bring it into Mexico. I couldn't bring the truck into Mexico, but I'd walk across the bridge. I got involved with a woman here, and we lived together for 5 years. We're planning on getting married. But I wanted to be able to take her into the United States, and she couldn't get the paperwork right. And that's what started it. That's what got me into it.
Now, where do you live right now?
Navarro, Laredo.
And how far are you away from a United States border?
From my residence there, it's about 5 miles.
And so you're 5 miles away from the United States border, but you can't find a way to bring your wife into the United States? Is that what you're telling everyone?
Well, we didn't get married. We couldn't get the paperwork right. She couldn't go with me. I've got major medical problems, and you know, if I end up in the hospital in the United States, I would have wanted her there with me. She couldn't come in.
You write a lot about immigration, the border issues on immigration, the Southwest border issues. Now, do you go in and out the border often?
Yeah, I do. I normally go in once a month. You're not going to believe this, but I can buy cigarettes in the United States cheaper than I can buy them here in Mexico. I can buy coffee in the United States cheaper than I can buy it here.
Why is that? Does that have anything to do like with NAFTA or what? What causes that price disparity?
Coffee at City Club here in Mexico is 350 pesos for a 3-pound can of coffee. I can buy a 3-pound can of coffee at Walmart in Laredo, Texas for $8 to $10.
And
And the cigarettes, I buy them at the duty-free store just before I come into Mexico. There's no tax in Mexico on the cigarettes, and I get the cigarettes in the United States for less than $1 a pack.
now, is there a reason? Is there a big American community where you live in Mexico?
Not really. You have them here sporadically. Most of the Americans that live here in Navarro Laredo is ex-military. The media has this border issue blown totally out of proportion.
Can you explain that? Explain what you mean by that?
The border area on the United States is one of the safest places in the United States. El Paso is one of the safest cities in the United States. Your border communities in the United States are fairly safe. And I'm not going to say they're unsafe here. I have been here roughly off and on about maybe 10 years. I have never had a problem here in Mexico.
Now, I've done a fair amount of hearings in El Paso, although I'm in California. I'm based in California. And what I've noticed when I went to the El Paso Immigration Center, 90% of the guards are Mexican American. 90% of all the employees are Mexican American, and they seem to know the lawyers. They seem to know the people that are being arrested. It seems to be one big community, like they all went to school together or something. What's your experience? Have you seen the same thing, same phenomenon, that even though the media portrays immigration as an us versus them, Mexicans, Mexican Americans against the rest of the world, that really Mexicans are on both sides of the issues?
On the American side of the border, it's totally stupid. They've militarized the border. So much so, and pathetically, they're doing it in your name. You're the one that's paying the taxes for this. If you built a 20-foot fence all along that border, you would find 21-foot ladders. The Border Patrol, they're committing all these atrocities in the American people's name. They shoot across a river and kill innocent people here. And this is wrong.
You were telling me about an incident right before we started the show, I guess at a beach or at a park last summer, involving a person with a little child. Would you like to repeat that for everyone listening, everyone watching?
The airboats like they have in Florida with the big airplane prop on the back of it. There was a chick and I were going to go to the river and go swimming. The Border Patrol, now I didn't go. Somehow I didn't go. But that day, the Border Patrol came by in a boat. There were these young boys swimming across the river. They touched the bank on the American side with their hand and swim back to the Mexican side. So the Border Patrol caught a boy in the middle of the river. They started just going around him with that boat, creating a wake. They were trying to drown that boy. The people on the bank started yelling, "No, no, no." One of those SOBs in the boat took a rifle, and shot a man on the bank that was holding a baby. They shot him in the chest. The baby fell to the ground. The man died. The Border Patrol rode off in that boat. They forgot about the boy in the river. They just took off, laughing, down the river.
Now, why do you think some Border Patrol officers are like that? That they have this sense of hostility or aggressiveness towards people from the neighboring country?
I feel they think they're above the law. There's no, what's the word? They have nobody to look over them. When I go through the Border Patrol into the United States, I see it all the time. The Border Patrol tries to intimidate the Mexicano people. They try to intimidate me, but I can get stupid at times. They don't intimidate me.
Now, many of the border patrol. Excuse me for interrupting you, but are many of the officers that on the U.S. side are they Mexican Americans, Mexican born, or?
I think they're American born, but like you said, about 90% of them are Mexican American. But they think they're God. I mean, you don't shoot people indiscriminately. That young boy that was shot, if I remember right when I read it, that young boy in El Paso that was shot, the Border Patrol started to wade across the river to where his body was laying. At the same time, the Mexican Army showed up. The Border Patrol started to pull their pistol, and all of a sudden there was about 40 rifles pointed at the Border Patrol, but the Border Patrol was beyond the halfway point in the river. So they ran back into the United States.
Now, on the Mexican side where you live, what's the prevailing mood, if there is one, towards the U.S. perception of immigration issues?
Now, this is the Mexican people in general look up to the United States and the American people as big brother. I have not had a bit of problems here in Mexico. The people are good as gold. The problem comes in at that border.
What about all the stories we hear about drug cartels and crime and violence on the Mexican side of the border?
You don't hear about it here. I read about it in the American newspaper. The American newspaper, the fourth estate, they try to scare the American people. And that's where your biggest problem comes in. And these Republicans in Congress, they're compounding the problem.
How is that, in your view? How are they compounding the problem?
Stupidity. They want to get reelected. They've got these people scared, and that's votes. They want to keep it going. They maintain the vote.
Now you said that on the U.S. side, they're publicizing the drugs, the crime, the violence a little heavier than it is on the Mexican side. Are you saying that there is no drugs or crime or violence right there in the border towns, or it's just not as big as someone like me is made to believe when I open up and read the Los Angeles Times and the San Diego Union?
Carlos, and you know it, there's crime all over the world.
That's right.
There's no more crime here at the border on the Mexican side. There's just as much crime on the United States side.
In fact, I think you published an article a few months ago, and I don't know what the source was. I guess I should have pulled it before the interview today, where they said that the crime rate in border towns, the drug rates in border town, the hard crime rates in border towns is actually lower than other cities that are more inland in the United States. And I thought that was a pretty amazing study. But that study would confirm what you're saying, that the amount of crime in border towns is exaggerated. So let me ask you, how you still have family members living here in the United States?
Oh yeah, I've got kids in the United States.
And how do they feel about you living in Mexico and about U.S.-Mexico relations?
They don't like it.
They don't like it? Well, okay, what about it is it that they don't like?
They buy into this BS they read in the newspaper.
Okay, so you're like a lot of us, that we have family members that just think that we're a little too radical on the issue. They don't listen to us. So you're like the fellow on the left for your family. Now, have you ever had to deal with the immigration court system or an immigration agency to go in
No,
and out the country? Anybody official?
no.
No. Okay. Let's say there was a lottery, and so you're throwing a lot of balls. Everybody's name throws your name in, my name, everyone, a whole bunch of people's name, and it's a chance for one day for the name selected to be allowed to advise President Obama on immigration. Give him one idea, and the name selected is Bob Drews. What
Uh,
would you tell? What would you tell the president? If there's one thing you really think he could fix, what would you tell him?
the president, as far as the immigration goes, if he passes immigration reform as he says he's going to do, that's good. But he's deported so many people, and he's deported way too many. When you start deporting veterans, this is wrong. This is an abomination on the American people. And I can't pronounce his name right. There's a boy, Hector Baracus, or however you say that.
Beg your pardon?
Two tours in Afghanistan, and he gets deported. This is wrong. The brothers in Colorado, they served in Vietnam together. One of them has a Bronze Star. They've got deportation orders. You don't deport people like that. When they pick them up for not wearing a seatbelt, a broken tail light, BS like that, and they're doing it in your name. I don't go along with that.
Hey, Bob, I have a question for you from the audience. Someone asked, what do you feel is the best solution to the border problem? Is it simply a policy thing where if we make a change on a certain policy matter, on a certain rule, it would fix everything? Or does it go much deeper than that?
Well, I'm not going to say that you should let everybody in. But Mexico has a good system here. The first 25 miles of Mexico is free. Now, as I told you, I drove truck for about 35 years. 25 miles north of the border, there's another check station on the highway where they check people. Here in Mexico, 25 miles south, there's another check station. If you go past that 25-mile marker, you better have some kind of visa. Here in Mexico, you pay 300 pesos for a 6-month tourist visa. The first 25 miles of Mexico is free. Now, when you think about this, remember, coffee is 350 pesos here. It's $8 to $10 in the United States. If the first 25 miles of the United States was free, let people just come and go, you'd have a lot of Mexicans going into the United States to shop, buy coffee, whatever, because food is cheaper in the United States than it is here.
Let me take a moment here. I just wanted to say there's a few guests that I know have special days today. In fact, our first two guests on Immigration Live, Chastity Alvarez and Deborah Santos Sherman, have birthdays. I believe Deborah's birthday's today and Chastity's tomorrow. I did want to say happy birthday to both of you. I also want to say happy birthday to my little princess, Victoria Batara, whose birthday's tomorrow. Actually, she's more like the middle princess because I have a Chihuahua now, and she's my little princess. But I want to say happy birthday to all of you. I was planning to sing happy birthday, but there's a few family members watching the show, my wife Angie, my cousin Bobby, and they've heard me sing alone before, and they cautioned me not to do it because I'll never have anyone on the show ever again. So I'll skip the happy birthday song and merely say happy birthday. Bob, the Central American children, what's the perception on the Mexican side toward the Central American children coming to the U.S. border?
Well, these kids, when they get into the United States, the Border Patrol is interviewing to decide whether they're legitimate for amnesty or whatever. The Border Patrol will talk to these kids a little bit in Espanol. They'll get them to sign a paper. I'm from Mexico. Right away, they're deported to Mexico. And they're not even from Mexico, they're from Central America. The Border Patrol is not doing what they should be doing.
So you're saying that some of the kids from Honduras and Guatemala, El Salvador are coming in the border, and the agents are getting them to sign papers saying they're from Mexico because the Mexican children can be turned away immediately. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how are Mexican residents reacting to the children from Central America, which are different countries?
I really don't know. I haven't talked much with them about that.
Okay, now Bob, you've come up through the ranks. I remember when I first started on Facebook, and I was looking for people interested in immigration, and you were one of the first ones, but you started slowly. And I noticed the last few days a couple of you have some really strong supporters, okay? Julieta Garcia, I think, said that you were her mentor. There was a couple other had really big, nice things to say about you. Now you're very prolific. You publish a lot. So what would you say, because there's a lot of people on Facebook and they're hanging out. They're reading, they make a comment, but they don't really get active on immigration issues. And you know, what would you tell them?
A little while ago, you said I had 3,000 people unjust legal immigration. I have 5 pages. When you add all the people up, there's over 8,000.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really amazing. What would you tell someone, though, because a lot of them are following you, and they might dialogue a little, but they're not pushing it. And every one of us that pushes it to our families. Of course, there's some who don't want to hear it in our families. Our friends, of course, there's friends that don't want to hear it. But every one of us is pushing the agenda out. What would you tell some of those people that are following you to make them push a little harder and to do some of the things you're doing?
I really don't know. I'm pushing the people as hard as I can about registering and voting. We need to replace Congress. The people in Congress are not doing their job. They need to be replaced. There's Ted Cruz, here in Texas.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't understand his game plan. His ancestor is Cuban, and he was born in Canada, and he dislikes immigrants. Well, what does he consider himself?
Do you think people like Ted Cruz really dislike immigrants, or it's just they're doing it opportunistically because they think it's a career stepping stone?
They think it's a stepping stone. They play on this rhetoric that the newspapers are doing about how bad the Hispanics are. And I don't know whether he can run for president or not. The newspapers keep saying he's going to try, but he's stupid.
You know, I don't know what drives human beings either, Bob. You know, there was a fellow that grew up across the street from me, became a semi-successful journalist, and when he passed away, one of the local papers did a 10-page eulogy on him. And they quoted him telling some of his friends, he wouldn't hang out with the rest of us. And he was quoted as telling some of his friends, I've always been disappointed with my culture. I'm half Filipino and I'm half Mexican, the 2 worst cultures in the world. You know, I'm both those cultures. I wish he had told me when we were children. I never knew he was going through that. I don't understand why people have hang-ups about different cultures. You've lived in 2 different countries, different cultures. Do you have any clue why people feel that way they do, about different cultures?
No, I don't. Now, when I came to Mexico, Mexico, with their ideology, is about 50 years behind the United States. Mexico looks up to the United States as big brother. The Mexican people want to think that the Americano people are good. I don't think they understand who crosses the border. Mexico don't check on this side of the border about who's coming in. Not like the United States does. The only time I've had a problem crossing into Mexico is right there at Christmas. You have these pickup trucks all coming to Mexico loaded down with goodies for the kids. And the Mexican government checks these pickups. And they back traffic up for about 8 or 9 miles north of Laredo, Texas. I love to see that.
Bob, I have another question here from a person that's asking, what do you say to the people here in the U.S. that claim that these people, the Mexicans, the people coming in through the southwest border, are taking U.S. jobs? What do you say to them?
When I was a boy, I worked in the cotton field in Missouri, picking and chopping cotton. You could not get these people today to work, do farm work. They won't do it. So I don't understand how these people are taking American jobs. Before long, all the farm work, all the farms will be in Mexico, and you'll be buying imported groceries because they can't afford to keep a farm, a ranch going in the United States. There's nobody to work.
Now, Chastity has the final question of the day for you. And she said, what is the best move the president can make? If, in fact, he does anything, what's the best thing he can do right now?
Relax the security BS. The United States is spending billions of dollars on a border fence, spending billions of dollars hiring border patrol that commit all these atrocities to people on both sides of the border. You don't need it.
Okay, Bob, that was really great. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your honest and genuine opinions. That's what makes this show what it is. We're only in our third show, but everyone has been so authentically honest that people are listening and people are sharing what we're talking about. And this is something that I really believe is necessary for the greater U.S. community and perhaps beyond. We're getting our word out, Bob. We're going to keep on giving a good fight, and I'm sure to have you back on again. And I want to give you a very hearty thank you. I also want to thank my staff here at Batara Immigration Live, Kim Lamb at Integrity Project Management, who's my show producer and virtual assistant, James Chapman, my engineer at 123live.com. But if you want to be alerted as to future interviews, future events, go to www.bataralive.com and click the green button, and that will get you into the future shows. Our next guest, Ellen Jimerson, on July 27th, 2014 at 11:30 a.m. We'll see you here at that time. And as they say, until then, have a great 2 weeks. Thank you. Bye.